Hey guys, welcome aboard. This is a live edition of Syracuse Sports, Syracuse basketball postgame presented by Krause Health, the exclusive healthcare partner for Syracuse Athletics. My name is Brent Axe. Great to have you here on this Saturday afternoon. We were football free today, the football team on a bye week. The basketball team heads down to Philly and picks up a 30-point win over Drexel, taking down the Dragons 80-50. Your final score, Syracuse now 3-0 on the season as they continue this march towards Vegas in what will be a very interesting and could be season defining few days in Vegas, frankly, with the importance of non-conference play and the importance of non-conference wins to shore up an NCAA tournament resume. One more before they head to Vegas. Syracuse will host Monmouth on Tuesday night at the JMA Wireless Dome, a 9 o'clock tip time for that. An impressive win all around for Syracuse today. This is a team so far, I get it's early, it's not even Thanksgiving yet, but look, this team is fun to watch, and this team has committed itself to defense. Syracuse came into today as the number one team in the country in scoring defense, giving up just 45 points per game. They gave up 50 points to Drexel. Now, this was a game that was clearly a tale of two halves. We're going to go over that. We're going to have to go over a interesting decision, a good problem to have for Red Autry, no question about it when it comes to his lineup. But what are they going to do when JJ Starling is healthy and comes back? Because Kiyan Anthony is not only holding his own, he is playing really well. He was the leading scorer in this game for Syracuse with 18 points. Nathan George and Donnie Freeman with 13. William Kyle had a great game with 8 points and 10 rebounds. We'll go over some other individual performances in this game coming up here shortly. But Autry has a really interesting lineup decision to make. JJ sat out for the second straight game. Remember, he had the lower body injury, seemed to be kind of in the hamstring area against Binghamton. He did not play against Delaware State. Week in between that game and today's game, and JJ once again did not warm up, did not play. We'll see if he gets back into the swing of things on Tuesday before the Orange head to Vegas to take on number 1 Houston, number 25 Kansas, and a third quality opponent in Las Vegas. JJ's a part of this team, and JJ's a part of this lineup. It's just going to be interesting to see how Red makes some adjustments there on a team that runs some hockey lines, is finding depth, is getting a lot of guys out there, which is good, but certainly the bench is going to be shorter, you would think, against the quality teams that are just around the corner for Syracuse. So we will go over that, and we will hear from our Syracuse Sports Insiders coming up. You guys bringing it as always during the game, and being a Syracuse Sports Insider means you can text me directly anytime, especially during Syracuse football and basketball games, live action. Tell me what's on your mind as things are happening, and we're going to highlight some of the best comments and opinion from our Syracuse Sports Insiders coming up here shortly. So the first thing is, let's just look at the tale of two halves in this game, guys, because Drexel was actually in this thing in the first half. They came to play. They were shooting well. They were at home. This was a game in Philadelphia, and the designation of that game, by the way, no mistake from Red Autry. I'm going to answer one of our insiders on this a little more in depth coming up here, but Drexel came to play first half. You go to halftime, Syracuse is up 37-32, both teams shooting an even 50%. Drexel with a few threes, 4 of 10, Syracuse 5 of 10 from three-point range. Rebounding was the big issue. In the first half, Syracuse was out-rebounded 19-9. They were not crashing the boards. There were way too many easy lanes for Drexel, way too many second chance opportunities for Drexel, and you're kind of saying to yourself, okay, wait. We've seen this movie before. And I think this is a distinct difference between this year's team and last year's team. Frankly, I think last year's team loses this game. I think they get behind. I think they don't crash the boards. They're not as athletically skilled and gifted as this team. I don't think they could have come back in this game. Maybe they scratch it out at the end, but it was the renewed commitment on defense that really showed for Syracuse here. Now, they're up by 5 at half. They were in control of the game, just letting Drexel do a few annoying things, particularly on the boards, to stay in this thing. You can't get out-rebounded by Drexel 19-9. Well, second half, a much different story. Syracuse outscores Drexel 43-18. The Orange shoots 16 of 33. Drexel shoots 7 of 35 in the second half of this game. That's 20%, while the Orange are shooting 48%. William Kyle was getting drawn away from the basket a lot in the first half, which I think complicated the rebounding and some of the defensive efforts. made sure to stay home, was in the paint. We'll go over his numbers here in a second here. He was great attacking the glass, some block parties in there, and the guy just bounces out of the gym. Just an athletic wonder for Syracuse, night and day from what Eddie Lampkin brought to the table last year. That's not a knock on Lampkin. They're just different players, but this is a guy who is going to eclipse Eddie Lampkin's season total in blocks soon. Eddie Lampkin had 16 blocks total last season, and William Kyle, he could eclipse that by the time they leave Vegas at this point. Different players, different styles, but just a different presence, a different energy for Syracuse in the paint. Second half numbers, as we mentioned, 3-point wise, Drexel's 2 of 13, Syracuse 2 of 8. From the free throw line, Syracuse much better. Luke Fennell getting a little run out there. Getting to the free throw line, 9 of 11 overall for Syracuse. And the Orange out-rebound Drexel 27-20 in the second half. So you could tell it was a tale of two halves. And again, the difference. You go into halftime, you're only up 5, rebounding not where it should be, defensive intensity. This team does play with more energy overall. And you have to love the fact that they press pretty much all game. It's not quite Michael S., I believe, leads us off from our insiders. I like this comment saying, do the Orange bring in Nolan Richardson to work on their defense? Remember the 40 minutes of hell Nolan Richardson would play? No, but this team has a renewed commitment to defense. They actually enjoy playing defense. Not only the guys that are out there deep, or I should say the starters, but you go deep on the bench. Akir Soiree actually enjoys playing defense. He has a presence there. Sadiq White loves to play defense. He's talked about that openly, can block shots, bouncy, around the rim, and Sadiq is kind of getting those quality minutes. He and Soiree are out there while Syracuse is pressing, and they make a difference. You can see the difference with guys like that going down your bench 7-8 deep as opposed to the lack of depth that was there last year. And there were some injuries on last year's team, mind you, of course, with both JJ and Donnie Freeman getting hurt, and the depth just wasn't there. But defense is a mentality, guys. This team knows they have to play defense well to win these games. Defense creates offensive opportunities the other way, and it is a mindset. And I want to go back. I played this clip on the last postgame show, but when I was in the locker room after Syracuse beat Delaware State, I was just struck by how many players knew they had to come in and play defense and the commitment that had to be there from Syracuse. Just let me go back to a couple of clips from – this is after the Delaware State game. You're going to hear from William Kyle here first.
Yeah, I mean, from the jump, defense was really, really important and something that he really emphasized. Even at halftime, I mean, we're up big, but we can't let up, and we know what our standard is, and we know what we're capable of, and we want to win championships this year. So we know we just got to keep pushing ourselves, and defense is going to help us get there.
There's a theme here. Kiyan Anthony here.
Yeah, I mean, shout out to Coach Red. He preached defense for 6 weeks straight. In the summer, we barely touched the ball. We was deep. We was defending each other, 1-on-1, 2-on-2, everything you could think of defensively. We was doing it. So to see it pay off, that means a lot. Because when you're in practice and you just preaching defense, sometimes it could be like where the balls are we trying to play offense, but it's paying off, and the offense is coming along with it. We got good actions, we got good plays, and we got great guards and bigs that can facilitate and finish.
So you heard both William Kyle and Kiyan Anthony say the same thing there. From the jump, first 6 weeks of summer, the emphasis on defensive intensity, and they have the athleticism and the length and just a better overall roster to be better defensively. First half, this was a team, Jack, one of our insiders, made a great point in saying they're watching shots go up, they're not boxing out, trying to out-jump these guys. They weren't crashing the boards on the defensive end. As good as a rebounder as William Kyle is, he's getting outwit by 3 or 4 guys. Donnie Freeman didn't have a rebound in the first half. You can't have that. I mean, Freeman had 13 points. He had some good 3-point opportunities, but you want Donnie Freeman. His bread and butter is in the paint. When he can get to the rack, he can get to the free throw line. He can hit that 3 when it's open, and it's good to have a versatile player like that you have to guard everywhere on the court. Don't get me wrong, but they snap a finger, and there was a difference. There's adjustments made in the second half. I still think some of the offensive sets need improvement. I still think there's still too much standing around. I think that's something they've really got to work on against Monmouth. But you've got to match the intensity of the teams that you play. Houston, as we know, loves to play defense, loves to get at you and win those grinding type of games. I got some scorers on that team, and we've got a couple guys coming on the pod next week to get you ready for that trip to Vegas. They're going to tell us all about Houston and Kansas coming up, trust me. So we'll get to that when the time comes as the week progresses here, coming up on Syracuse Sports. But you have got to fight fire with fire to beat Houston. And so far, Syracuse has shown they can rub two sticks together and make a fire on defense. That's important. That's refreshing. And it's something they've got to keep going here. The fact that they press all game, my guy Frankie S. says that here, says, Uncle Brent got his hand up. I'm loving seeing SU press again. Matt said in his comment here, what we've been discussing, I love how engaged this team is. The bench is engaged. The coach is engaged. The players on the floor are engaged. The high energy is going to win them some games. So, yep, Carmelo Anthony was courtside. Kyle McCord in Philly was courtside watching Syracuse play Drexel. Some stars that are going to be lingering around this team, not only in the Anthony family, but around the Anthony family as well. But there is a different energy around this team, and they're confident. They're 3-0. Now, playing in Philly was not a mistake. Playing that exhibition game in Buffalo was not a mistake. What do Buffalo and Philadelphia have in common basketball-wise? NCAA tournament sites. I like that Autry did that. And I like that Autry admitted it. I like that Autry, he talked to Mike Waters about this. We asked him about it at, I can't remember if it was after Binghamton or Delaware State, or actually, I think it was at media day going into the exhibition games, going into that Buffalo exhibition. Why, go on the road and do this? Well, you're sending a message to your team. If all goes well and we do what we are supposed to do, we might be in one of these two cities playing in the NCAA tournaments. That was not a mistake. I like that. There was a question here. Yeah, here it is from Gabe, who says, do you agree it's a good idea to play a game outside the dome to prepare themselves for the gauntlet ahead in Las Vegas? Gabe, I don't think it's a good idea. I think it's a great idea. Get away from the dome. Get uncomfortable. And I think part of the first half struggles this team has was just that. They're on, there's a lot of SU fans there, don't get me wrong, but you're on the road, different environment, right? You had a week off, got to get the engines cranking a little bit here. I like that they played an exhibition game on the road. Go to Buffalo. And by the way, you're getting in front of fan bases directly. There's a lot of Syracuse fans in Western New York, Rochester, Buffalo area, but get in front of them, right? Philadelphia has been a boon of recruiting for Syracuse. Get back there, get in front of them. It's one thing to recruit those areas, which you have to do. When you can get in front of those players and show those players that are from those areas that you'll play there, you'll get back home. Syracuse typically gets to like New York City and certain places every year that are rich recruiting environments. The ACC naturally takes you to some rich recruiting environments. Playing in this tournament in Las Vegas, like, you can't ask for better recruiting than that. Not to mention the NIL money that could be coming your way if you have success in Vegas against some of these teams. I like that Red set that message clear and present message. These are NCAA tournament sites. This is where you want to be. So let's go play there and get familiar with it. Okay. Second big thing we got to discuss here is what Red is going to do when JJ Starling is ready to come back into this lineup here. JJ Starling is a role on this team. JJ Starling has not been Wally pipped yet. Shout out to those of you that get that reference, right? Lou Gehrig, Wally Pipp. You can't limit Kiyan Anthony's minutes going forward. So you look at tonight, Kiyan comes in, he starts for the second straight game for JJ, and he's hitting that step back shot. He's getting to the rim. He's great getting to the rim, kind of, using the backboard to his advantage. If you leave him open from 3-point range, he can hit it. He's not abusing that, though. He only took 2 threes in this game, hit one of them. He played 28 minutes. He scores and leads Syracuse with 18 points. We mentioned Freeman with 13. Nathan, I love the game Nathan George played with 13 points. He actually hit a 3 in this one, but he was great around the rim. Showed that he can get and score and shoot around the rim. He can dish out those assists. He did that today with 7 on the day. So the guy I'm still kind of wondering about, I don't want to make it seem like I'm picking on him, because Nate Kings had 9 rebounds in this game. In a game that Syracuse, for a half, the rebounding was optional, he held his own there. I think we're just kind of waiting for that Nate Kings game, because we have seen the numbers. He came in this year as a 45% three-point shooter. You're just kind of waiting for that big Nate Kings game from a scoring standpoint, but you go out there and grab 9 rebounds. You go out there and play some defense and show you belong out there. But would he be more effective as a bench guy? And again, the way the rotations are going here, I don't think being a starter matters, right? Here's the thing. And the sexy headline is, should Kiyan Anthony replace JJ Starling in the lineup? How about you find a way to utilize both of them in the lineup? How about you have a lineup of Nathan George, JJ Starling, Kiyan Anthony, William Kyle, Donnie Freeman, of course, with the natural subs that are going to come in, the Sadiq Whites of the world and the Akir Suarez of the world, and when Fennell comes in, and those Tyler Betsy, who unfortunately suffered an ankle injury in this game. He left the game briefly, went to the locker room, came back to the bench, did not play again. I think they were being cautious about that. I have not seen what Red Autry has said about that. He seemed to be okay, but Betsy's one of those first guys off the bench. You have that depth when he's healthy. Bryce Zephyr looking like he belongs out there. He had 4 points, 3 rebounds, good 15 minutes, good defense, showed he can push the ball up the court. Like, this team has some athleticism on its bench and has options on its bench, right? So that's a fair question to ask. And I think you're kind of getting into a world of, do you want to put Kiyan Anthony in the Dion Waiters category? Dion Waiters famously never started a game at Syracuse, but plays starters minutes, right? What did he average? I think he averaged like 30 minutes a game. I have to look it up to be exact, but it was around 28 to 30 minutes a game. But he never had his name read at the beginning by the public address announcer. Do you do that with Kiyan, or do you say, okay, I want Nate, I want JJ, I want Kiyan in there, and I'm going to mix in Nate Kings, I'm going to mix in other guys based on lineups, based on matchups. That's the important thing, right? So this is a good problem to have, guys. I want to see what Kiyan does against Houston and Kansas and teams that not only are going to, and already you're starting to see teams that are keying on him defensively. It's just not everybody has defenders that can slow down Kiyan Anthony. Houston does. Kansas does. Tennessee does, right? I'm really intrigued to see what happens in those games when he goes toe-to-toe. There's a lot of great freshmen in college basketball this year. The renewed sense of getting freshmen out there. Syracuse has a lot of them on their schedule, by the way, so it's going to be really exciting to see that. And beyond the boozers at Duke and Malik Browns at Louisville, and just some of those guys maybe you've heard of. There's some guys stepping up around the ACC specifically that Syracuse is going to see. We can talk about that another time here. But obviously, Kiyan is going to get some of the brighter spotlight there given his namesake, but he's a good player. 18 today, holding his own since coming into the lineup for JJ Starling. The thing I'm going to be intrigued to see, guys, is look, JJ can be a bit of a, he could be, I want to say this word properly, okay? JJ could be a defensive liability at times. He just can. I just, sometimes people can get by him. It's not the strength of his game, but JJ can get to the hole. JJ can score. JJ belongs out there. He's their leader. Ask anybody in that locker room who the leader on this team is. They're going to say JJ, right? So you don't just toss him aside because Kiyan has come in and looks good. You find a way to balance it out. This is why Red Autry gets paid the big bucks. He's got to figure that out. And guys, I want to reiterate this. It's a good problem to have. This is a good problem to have. But it is something you have to address because if JJ falters, and he's had a couple injuries now, right? If he's not back to 100%, if he's not shooting well, you know, you've got somebody right there that you know can step in and hold his own out there. But you don't cast him aside because Kiyan has come in and looked good. But this is why you have depth. This is why you recruit guys like this. This is why you have players constantly pushing you. You know, we talk about it in football. Syracuse, their quarterback situation, okay? Steve Angeli goes down. They brought in Ricky Collins. They paid him a lot of money, had the pedigree of a highly rated recruit, Elite 11. They paid him a lot of money, was at LSU, had the arm strength. Everything looked good. But when the bright lights were on, Ricky Collins has been, and I'm not just saying this to dump on him, it's fact. He's been one of the worst quarterbacks in the Power Four. ESPN recently did a listing of the 68 Power Four quarterbacks. He ranked 66th, okay? That's just the numbers, the stats. He has not looked good out there. My point is, you've got to invest at that position. It's the same thing here. Now, JJ has that leadership, though. JJ, there's an X factor in this. So it will be tested. Red can't just play him out of loyalty. Red just can't keep him in there for that fact. He can lead in other ways. To me, figure out how to get them all out there at the same time when the matchups are there, because you don't want to reduce Kiyan's minutes too much here because he's contributing. He can shoot from everywhere. He's an offensive threat. Red said this himself after the Delaware State game, because when we asked Kiyan in the preseason, like, can you describe yourself as a player, the thing he kept coming back to is that he's a 3-level scorer, and he's obviously showing that. But Red was quick to say a couple of times now in some press opportunities that he's more than that. So you got to keep him out there. He's earned the extra minutes, but you're not going to put JJ on the bench, right? So good problem to have. How they figure that out is going to be fascinating. This was a game you wanted to see him try and figure it out. JJ just couldn't get back out there with the leg injury. So Tuesday night, does JJ get a little run? And you need a game like that to start to answer some of those questions, because you don't want to be in that situation. Now, you're not going to force JJ back out there if he's not healthy, but you don't want to be experimenting in Vegas. You want to go to Vegas with a plan. Defensively, that is sharp. The intensity, the commitment, what they're doing, and technically you've got to work on some things like switching some guys out and the lineups, and you got to do that for 40 minutes, not like 28 that they did in this game. The first half laps that they had, that will not be an issue in Vegas. If it is, come on, like, you can't go 40 minutes against the number one team in the country. Just stop playing, right? But Monmouth Tuesday night, that's a game you want to start to answer some of these questions yourself. But again, good problem to have, no doubt about it. So just a couple other things from this game. We mentioned some stats and some guys that played pretty well here. William Kyle ends up with 10 rebounds and in a game, 3 block shots. So Kyle, I want to say now I think he's up to 10 blocks on the year, right around there. Like I said, he's going to pass Eddie Lampkin shortly here. Eddie Lampkin had 16 blocks all of last year. He's just fun to watch, man. And that's the thing with this team. They're an easier watch. Last year's team just wasn't fun for a myriad of reasons, but their style of play wasn't fun. Statistically, where they ranked, their pace of play, their offensive cohesion, they didn't move the ball. These guys have fun playing the game, and they are fun to watch, which is going to make them more forgiving in a lot of ways, knowing, and especially if they keep up this intensity on defense. Sadiq White got 15 minutes in this game, had a few fouls here, but he's out there on the press. He likes playing defense. We've seen the explosiveness. I'm just waiting for that Sadiq White game. It could be Tuesday, right? Does he come in? And Red's just got to love the options he can throw at teams like Houston and Kansas. You think this is my lineup? Okay, I'm going to switch that up. Now, I've been a little critical of the hockey lines, but maybe he's on to something, that you can throw different things and come at teams in waves and find a little bit of a rhythm there with the Nathan Georges that'll play consistently, Donnie, Kiyan, JJ when he comes back, and the guys that are going to be out there. Pardon me. Look, when Noah Lobdell's getting in the game in an era where you're just not going to the bench, remember, there's no such thing as walk-ons, guys. Walk-ons don't exist anymore. But when you're going essentially to the walk-ons at the end of the game in an era where you've got to keep the pedal down, build those scores, the net rankings, the tournament committee is watching, margin of victory is really factored into this thing. 30 points. Delaware State was 40 points. Binghamton was a huge win. Like, Syracuse is not only 3-0, they're 3-0 with huge margins of victory. That's coming from their defensive commitment, but also, yeah, you got it's. I think somebody says this in the comments here, so we'll go to more of our Syracuse Sports Insiders. Yeah, here it is from my guy Danny P, who says it's nice being back to beating teams that they should, but it's even nicer that they don't give the lead away later in the game. That was last year's team. Even when they would build a lead, you're just waiting for the shoe to drop and them to lose the lead, to lose their composure, to question what's happening. Decision-making from Red, like everything that just became a pattern last year. So far, they're beating the teams they need to beat. They're keeping the pedal down in terms of intensity. They're playing smarter basketball. One thing I didn't mention was the turnovers in this game. When you go out there and you only commit, I just want to make sure I'm right about this. I think they only had 7 turnovers compared to you caused 18. That's what you do against Drexel. That's what you do against Delaware State. Now, what you have to do when you upgrade against the better teams coming up, hey, if you can create 18 turnovers against Houston, you have to cash those in. The points off turnovers, the second chances you get from that defense, that's important. But when you're only committing 7 turnovers, like this was a team last year, Syracuse would have 14 turnovers against it. Look, turnovers might come. Good teams, bad teams, everything between, by the pace this team plays with, the fact they're still getting used to each other. It's what you do to overcome those turnovers. But man, you only had 7 in a game like this. You will take that every day of the week and twice on Sunday. My guy Samir says Syracuse basketball is fun to watch again. Man, this team is athletically light years ahead of last year. From Tampa, Ron, who says Kyle is fun to watch. That being William Kyle, of course. This team is so athletic and good to see that they are playing better the second half. Says a lot about coaching and making adjustments, which, frankly, we didn't see a lot of last year. And look, maybe Red just didn't have the ingredients to work with here. Give him a better team. He'll make you a better meal. So far, that's what we've seen. Ryan F. says, especially defensively, this team is just so much more engaging. The last couple of years, we've had some tough basketball to watch. This year, they are fun to watch. And we go all the way out to Hawaii. My guy, Eugene. You never know where those insiders are, folks. That's the beauty of our Syracuse Sports Insiders. They are everywhere. They're in Hawaii. They're in Canada. They're in the United States of America. They are in, who knows? There might be insiders on the International Space Station for all that I know. Eugene, checking in from Hawaii, says, as previously stated, this is a team that has the ability to make a lengthy NCAA tournament run. This team has talent and is deep. A good day today for this group. There you go. Being a Syracuse Sports Insider, guys, it's right there on your screen. Gives you direct text message access to me anytime you want. Just want to shoot the breeze, talk SU Sports, you can do it. Love hearing from you guys during games, especially what's on your mind, the up and down roller coaster. Not much today. I mean, the first half, what were you guys saying on the text line? Rebounding, right? And some great insight. We've got insiders sending us pictures from courtside. My guy Bert, shout out to Bert, sat right behind Carmelo Anthony. To Evan, number 1, our first ever subscriber, who was giving me reports on the bench. Tyler Betsy's back on the bench, right? So not only are you guys just sending me your thoughts, you're helping me out. You're at the game. You're courtside. You're right there. Hey, Tyler Betsy, back on the bench. Evan's sitting right there. He's one of the first to get that out to your fellow insiders. Insiders helping insiders. It's a beautiful thing, right? Just $3.99 a month to be a Syracuse Sports Insider. You can try it free for 2 weeks, and it's there on your screen and in the show notes on how you can sign up today. We would love for you to join our growing, passionate community of Syracuse sports fans. Only insiders get their voice heard on the postgame show and the Syracuse Sports Podcast as well. So, with this one in the books, in Syracuse at 3-0, here's what's coming up here. Tuesday, Syracuse will play Monmouth. Remember, that is a 9 o'clock tip time. So we'll be up late for that one as Tuesday becomes Wednesday morning, but we'll have our live postgame show after that game. We're going to have I'm cooking up a couple of things for you guys for the pod, both for Syracuse, Notre Dame, and the upcoming trip to Vegas. Some great guests that will be joining us to preview that. I'm working on, I don't like to really talk about these things. I'm superstitious until they happen, but there's an exciting thing happening football-wise. I know that the football season has kind of gone in the tank here, no matter what happens against Notre Dame and Boston College. No bowl game, losing season, locked in. Everybody's looking forward to recruiting. We just did a great recruiting pod, if you guys missed that. We had Marcus Benjamin from Rivals, my guy Chris Carlson, who was in Miami, had a great conversation with Cameron Wilson, one of Syracuse's bigger commitments in the class of 2026, and Mike McAllister, the recruiting guru. We had a great recruiting pod. That is up on the Syracuse Sports feed if you missed that and want to have an encouraging conversation about football as we look to the future there. But we've got a football guest coming up here that I know you guys are going to be excited to hear about, not only from the name, but why he's coming on the pod to describe something I can't talk about yet, but will be happening shortly before the Boston College game that I think will rekindle an old discussion and I think will be certainly interesting for Syracuse football fans to partake on. So little tease there on what's coming up on the pod. Also want to remind you about this. So on the Syracuse Sports Podcast, we don't do this on the live pod because live streams and music, there's some rights issues there and I just don't want to get in trouble. So, but on the Syracuse Sports Podcast, what we do is we highlight original music on the pod. So if you are in a band, if you are a independent musician and you want your music featured on the Syracuse Sports Podcast, please get in touch. Send me an email, BAXE@syracuse.com. We'll talk, we'll work it out, and we'll have your music featured here. My guy Mike Powell, right over my shoulder here, former Syracuse lacrosse player, was featured on the last podcast with his terrific album, The Full Nelson, the song Moonlight, Sunshine, and Rain. I've had so many insiders and people reach out like, man, holy cow, Mike Powell. What a song, right? That can be you. So reach out and we will feature it on the Syracuse Sports Podcast. So we got a lot of things coming up, guys. Next up Tuesday night, live post game after Syracuse and Monmouth. 9 o'clock tip. Remember, that one's a little later. So you can watch and listen live, or you can watch and listen when you want. So please make sure you subscribe. Spotify, Apple, YouTube. Those are the main ones, but wherever you get your podcasts, so you can check out our Syracuse Sports post-game shows and the Syracuse Sports Podcast on demand when you want. That's going to do it for this edition of Syracuse Basketball Postgame, presented by Krause Health, as Syracuse rolls to an 80-50 win in Philly over Drexel. Go celebrate with a good old cheesesteak, right? Let's start that debate. Best cheesesteaks in Philly. By the way, this is a bad job out of me. I've got to fix this. I've never been to Philadelphia. I know. What's the deal with that? I've never been to Philadelphia. I've never been to Washington, D.C. I've driven through it several times. I've never actually stayed the night there, though. I know. Just not a patriot. Just not a true American. You got to go to Philly and Washington, D.C. once in your life, right? So I don't know about the cheesesteak debate in Philly. Never been there. Just heard about it from other people. I'll get there at some point, but I got to fix that on the resume at some point. In the meantime, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening, guys. Orange pick up a 80-50 win over Drexel. Tuesday night's the next matchup against Monmouth. We will be with you after that game. Enjoy the rest of your weekend, okay? We'll talk to you next time here on Syracuse Sports.